Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be talking about whether or not 3D artists actually have to go to college. And I'm going to be talking about this from two perspectives. The perspective of me when I first graduated school and was applying for freelance gigs. And now I have the opposite perspective of actually looking at people's resumes and their reels and deciding who I want to hire. So I will be looking at it from those two perspectives, which will hopefully give you a little bit of insight into the next steps for you if you're either considering switching careers into 3D animation or you're just looking at colleges now, you're very early in that process. I feel like it can be pretty daunting to be looking at the 3D animation industry and its various expressions, whether it's games or films or commercials or architectural visualization. What do you actually need? I do want to say though, this is really just based on my own experience. Hopefully you find it helpful. Hopefully it's illuminating in some way. I'm sure there are lots of really valid opinions out there. School is a really big topic that lots of people have a lot of strong emotions and strong views about, but I would also like to hear your thoughts as well. If you have experience that you'd like to share, or you have a different opinion, or this has rung true to you in some way, definitely let us know in the comments below. Hopefully that comment section will actually be a good resource as well for those of you who are trying to get these questions answered. So we'll start from the perspective of somebody going to school. And I will say most of the skills that I learned as a 3D artist were self-taught. Even though I went to college for 3D animation, I went to School of Visual Arts. When I went to school, I had already been doing animation in my free time. So a lot of those 3D skills I had kind of learned prior to school. So I had this sort of weird situation where a lot of it was review and I was kind of picking up these other skills that maybe fell through the cracks or I didn't have a full picture of, or maybe I knew how to do something, but I didn't understand why it was the way it was. So this gives me the perspective that college is not necessarily necessary for learning skills. It's helpful for other areas, but in terms of learning skills, maybe not. I think personally that you can really learn everything you need to learn about 3D animation, the craft of 3D animation, whether you're a generalist or whether you're trying to be a specialist, like a rigger or a modeler or a texture artist. I believe that you can learn those things outside of school. However, there is something that I did not anticipate that was really helpful about going to college, and that was networking. Everybody who you go to school with, if you're going to school for computer animation, is going to be your peers, other people who are going to be entering the job market same time as you. So it creates this situation where if you are friends with everybody, that's a kind of another tip. Be nice because these people you'll end up working with. But if you have these connections when you leave school, it's a lot easier to get a foot in the door. One of them goes to this place or that place. You can shoot them a message and say, hey, are they looking for any modelers? Are we looking for any animators? I just sent my reel over. And sometimes it can be as simple as them getting up from their desk, walking over to the HR person and saying, hey, my friend just applied. They're a great modeler. I think they'd be a good fit. And then the HR person will say, great, I'm looking at hundreds of these applications. Now I have something to kind of help me sort. You're cool. We hired you. Maybe this other person is also, and that's a huge leg up. That is how I got my second internship that eventually turned into my first freelance gig. In addition to this, if the school is well connected, you will have professionals who are either teaching classes who will know you after school and be a little bit more likely to hire you over somebody else who they don't know. And the school will probably have brought in professionals who teach workshops and things. And that is how I got my first internship. Was I went up to one of the people that came and presented after the class and I said, hey, are you looking for an intern? And they said yes. So that's how I got my first internship. It was really as simple as that. So this is really helpful and it can't really be overstated how useful that is, especially if you take advantage of these opportunities and you really speak up for yourself. Another good aspect is that you don't always know what you don't know. At college, you will be learning side skills like resume writing, how to actually approach these companies, social skills, sometimes writing skills, which you do actually need if you're going to be writing some of these emails to people. It's a two-edged sword. They waste a lot of time to do these extra required classes for school, but it can be helpful in filling out your knowledge as a person, as a human, hopefully practical skills, though not always. And these are things that you would learn as you went, these are things that you could probably pick up by Googling how to write a resume or how to write a good email through trial and error. Tips and tricks that, maybe 3D animation teachers have that they can share with you are probably stuff that you would pick up on the job. And honestly, that's where you'll pick up most of this stuff. So it's not like you have to go to school to get this data, but it will give you a head start. That's kind of how I look at it. It gives you a head start. It doesn't mean that there aren't other ways of learning exactly the same thing, but it's kind of going to depend on your personality, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. So what are some of the bad things about college? Number one is obvious. Of course, we all know this. It's super expensive, and leaving school with a smaller loan or with not a loan at all, if you get a scholarship or if you don't go to school, of course, that's the cheapest. That's going to give you a lot of economic flexibility, and it's just going to give you freedom when you're looking for jobs. You don't have to go to the first job that drops in your lap. You can really choose the one that you really want to go to because you don't have to worry about paying off a loan. So obviously money is huge, and college is way too expensive. Like, come on guys, it's way too expensive. Another negative, and this kind of comes hand in hand with that head start thing I was talking about, depending on the program, you could also waste a lot of time. There's definitely courses I took in college that were required for credits that I don't really remember what we covered, and I don't really think they were that useful, to be honest. If you're just learning yourself with online courses, with YouTube videos, whatever it is, you're going to be able to save time on those other things. I kind of see this as two sides of the same coin. It really depends on the school program, but I do actually think that in some ways it's going to give you a leg up, and in some ways it's just going to slow you down a bit. So I would say really assess the school program, because they're really not all created equal. So if you don't go to school, if you say, I'm okay without the networking, I'll find my way, I'll apply to enough places, I'll go to meetups, I can make those connections other ways, and I can learn the technical skills other ways. Online courses, YouTube videos, I'm self-taught, whatever it is. Honestly, a lot of the skills I have are self-taught. I look online, I search forums, I search YouTube, whatever it is, Reddit. I know you can do it. I've done it. That's how I learned most of what I know. The good thing about it is that you don't waste any time. And this is really hinging on your own work ethic. You need to have a really good work ethic to do it this way. In school, you have classes you have to go to, you have homework you have to do. You're gonna get forcibly, moved through the system so that you at least know a certain level of information. If you're not at school, you don't have any of that infrastructure to kind of force you through those hoops, which I also kind of found annoying at times. But you need to have an incredible work ethic. This is something you should have anyway, and something that if you don't develop it in school, you need to after school. Now, this is not me saying you have to overwork, you have to work 24/7, but if you can keep a consistent 8 to 10 hour work day every day, either learning or putting your reel together or applying to jobs, that's really what's necessary. Just because you don't have that structure, you'll need to find ways of making that structure for yourself. Some of you might be watching this and saying, well, I have a college degree, it's just not in computer animation. I have a liberal arts degree, or maybe like a fine art degree in painting or something, filmmaking. And you might be wondering, well, like, do I have to go back to college in order to work as a 3D artist? Do I have to get a completely new degree? Do I go for a master's? My personal opinion is that you have all the tools that you need to learn on your own. There's a lot of wonderful online courses out there. And if you do decide to go for a master's, of course you can do that, but not having a degree in the particular discipline that you like to apply for is only a factor if it says so on the application. Every once in a while, you'll come across an application on a company's website that says, well, we're looking for people that have at least a bachelor's in a applicable field. I think even this could be construed different ways. I mean, if you have a film background, that's kind of a related field. If you have an art background, that's definitely a related field. So I wouldn't feel too limited by this. What it really comes down to is your work. This is the most important thing when you're applying, which brings me to the other side. So as somebody who hires people, who's looking at their applications, I now have a different perspective than I did when I was in school. And the thing that really sets people apart is their reels. Yes, I look at their resume. Yes, I look at their email, and if they misspell everything or they're not professional in the way they write it, that will be a huge turnoff. Or if I literally can't find their reel, that will be a huge turnoff. Or if their website is not very professional. These are all things that add to the picture about you, about who you are. But really, the most important thing that I look for is your work. I'm going to look at your reel, or if it's stills on your website, whatever it is, I'm going to look at those and I'm going to know if you know what you're talking about, if you are good at what you say you're good at. There's no real hiding it if you're displaying your work clearly. So for me, that is the most important part, is that you have good work. This should come as an encouragement that these other things, like whether you went to the correct program, whether you have certain certifications, whatever it is, it really doesn't matter unless your work is good. Those things add on to filling out a picture of who you are as an artist, but the core is your portfolio. This is true whether you're applying for positions at companies, whether you're looking for freelance gigs, whether you want to do commissions or music videos for people. They're just going to be looking at your work. I mean, I just keep saying it over and over again because it's so important, and it feels like a no-brainer until I come across portfolios have a really nice resume, but they don't show me anything. They don't show me the work that they talked about doing, and that for me is like an instant cut. So for those of you out there who are looking to get into 3D animation as a career, or trying to at least learn what would be the steps that they would have to take in order to get to the point where they could start applying for these jobs, I am working on a quick start guide for you, which you can find a link to below this video. Otherwise though, please do put your thoughts about this topic down below in the comments. And if you really like this video, if you found it helpful and you want more videos like this, please do let me know by hitting the like button, and I will see you in the next one.